Ladies and gentlemen, if I can get you all to sit down, to stop chatting on the sidelines. We're about to begin. We have a very special series of things that are going to happen here. It's a cavalcade of stars, and so I need you all to sit down, pay attention, get yourselves in the mood for it. If I can just be sure, if everyone at the sides of the door can stop talking and sit down, I would appreciate it. All right, we are going to talk about something that in Ukraine is a subject of common knowledge and discussion, which is cyber war, cyber hacking, information warfare. But we decided we want to start at a more philosophical level, and so we decided to invite the most handsome and best-dressed philosopher in the world. Some people think he is also the best philosopher in the world, but I will put it that he is the best-dressed philosopher in the world. Francis Bernard-Henri Lévy, who is going to tell us, who's going to answer the question, who killed the truth? Bernard?
I'm addressing the best-dressed journalist in the world, to be honest. He's more famous by that than me. Well, we are going to speak of fake news, so-called alternative facts, hijacking of elections. There has been attempts of hijacking in America, in France, and there will be for sure more than attempts in Ukraine. One has to expect that. And as Farid just said, I will try to give, in a few minutes, a sort of attempt of big picture on all this arena. The big picture, what I feel to be the big picture of this crisis of the truth in which we are engaged since a little time. Who killed the truth, I don't know, but where does the crisis of the truth comes from? I think I have a few clues, a few suspects. And I would say that there is three sources of this crisis of the truth, which is the paradigm of all the rest of the question you will discuss. There is, number one, a philosophical suspect. There is a technological responsible, and there is a political source. Philosophically, the crisis of the truth has begun a long time ago, 1.5 centuries ago, with the philosophical modernity. One can reasonably say that all those who doubt truth today have their deep roots in, let's say very briefly, the philosophy of Friedrich Nietzsche. With Nietzsche began a long process of which we are the last testimonies of undermining the very value of truth. The modern philosophy has been put under the banner, under the flag of the criticism of the will of truth. This was an inconceivable idea in the time of Enlightenment, in the time of the Greek philosophy, but this is the modern idea. Why should the truth be preferred than the lie? Why should truth have a value more than something else? This is a metaphysical question, starting with Nietzsche and going to all the most updated modern philosophers of today. Number two, there is a technological source of this crisis of the truth in which we are engaged. And we go back to this huge phenomenon, which is the internet, the social networks, and so on, and the new technology. Regarding truth, what happened in 2 words with the new technology? one great thing and one disaster. The new technology promoted a great idea, which is that each of us, everyone, every singular voice has an equal right to express itself. This is the best idea ever. But when it becomes a disastrous idea is when you come to the second proposition, which is that each voice, each proposition, each expressed word has an equal value under the sky of the truth. This is a completely new idea, the idea of a democratization of the truth. This is completely new. The idea not only that I have the right to express, but that my expression has an equal right to be claimed to be true than the word, the expression of the scientist, of the wise man, of the man who has reflected a lot, and so on and so on. So the technology, the new technology, has invented a democratization of the truth, which is a proper disaster. I say it is a new idea, not completely, because when you look at it carefully, you cannot prevent from thinking that, in a way, it is a revival, what we are facing today. This idea that every word has an equal right to pretend to be true. This is the revival of probably the eldest debate of the Western philosophy. In the Greece, in Athens, Greece of the 5th century and the 4th century before Christ, you had a school of thinkers who were called the sophists. You had the philosophers on one side, Socrates, Plato, and so on, and on the other side, the sophistes. Protagoras, Gorgias, Callicles, all these good thinkers whose doctrine was to say Socrates has absolutely no right to pretend that he has the truth. It is just one truth among others, and me, Protagoras, me, Gorgias, we have an equal right to pretend to be true. So, Internet, Google, Facebook, Twitter, and so on, they reinvented in modern terms, in 21st century, this whole debate of philosophy regarding sophistic, and they are the new sophists of today. This revival of sophism, this revival of this old school of thought, is the second source of this crisis, this vacillation of the truth. And of course, there is a third and last reason, and a third and last suspect in this picture, which is the rise of populism. There is a very famous quote of George Orwell, the English writer, the fighter in the Spanish Civil War, very brave man, the author of 1984. And George Orwell used to say that, not truth, but history is a side book on the bed table of the tyrants. A side book, the book which you read before getting to sleep. By that, Orwell meant that one of the main goals, and maybe the ultimate goals, and maybe the most efficient tools of the tyrants is to intervene in history, not only in the sense of the history which is achieved, but the history which is told. Orwell was right. All the totalitarian states of which he foresaw the paradigm acted in this way. They all said, like a famous Nazi leader, the truth is not the truth is what I say. Today, in, of course, milder forms, because we are not speaking of Nazism, we have a generalization of this idea. Today, if you look, for example, at what is happening in this area, therefore in this country, if you look at the war which has been engaged by Russia against Ukraine, the aggression of Ukraine by Russia, you have to reach the conclusion, when you read carefully the picture, that of course Putin aggressed Ukraine with troops, with paramilitary soldiers, with violence, but also with the manipulation of the truth, with the building of alternative narratives, as he says, in words which are strangely similar to those of the President of the United States. When you look at the situation in this area, you cannot prevent from thinking that Putin, President of Russia, whoever it is of course commander-in-chief of his country, but he is also historian-in-chief, he is also journalist-in-chief, he is also the one who pretends by all means to rewrite, to de-write, to erase, to reprint the history, to reinvent the history of the past. And there is a very famous quote of a contemporary of Orwell, a Frenchman, who said, nobody never knows, personne ne sait jamais ce que vous réserve le passé. Nobody knows what the surprise that the past can reserve to you. Nobody can predict what the past will tell you. This is the situation in which we are with the populist regime. They are reinventing the past. When you look at the debates which are going on in Poland today, the rewriting of the story of Solidarnosc, the minimization of the role of Lech Walesa, the attempt to destroy the reputation of Bronisław Geremek or of Jacek Kuron in Poland today, you see that the populist tyranns, the new tyranns populist of today, have as one of their best weapons, and probably one of the most efficient, this will and these means to corrupt, to reinvent, to erase, and to rewrite the past. If you put the three together, you have the suspect, I know. You get to the point of who killed Mr. Truth. I did not want to finish before Prime Minister Manuel Valls is sitting. Thank you very much.
No, no,